The official start to Fridays for Future. Welcome, everybody. Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, Fridays for Future. Oh my gosh, the end of March here. Already we are moving on and moving forward. Just a few announcements from me, and then I'll open it up to anyone else and activities and things that are going on. We are still moving forward with what I call the county campaign. Again, Oshtemo declaring a climate emergency was huge, along with our other local establishments. Nikki and Tim and others are working on the Kalamazoo climate action plan, such as it is. It's often more difficult than you think. I still can't predict sometimes where the roadblocks are going to be. And thanks to Rick Fryman. Rick, I still need to connect you with a lot of our other folks in Portage, giving a Electrify Everything presentation to their board as well. We are making the rounds and getting the word out. I got a great invite to speak to the Michigan Township Association annual education conference at the end of April, and I've invited all the townships in the county to come be part of that with me. And so I'm kind of hoping that will help spur some of that local action as well. So just so you know, just because you don't always see some of those actions happening, some of those small groups are really doing a lot of work, and I thank them very much for that. A lot of other things, of course, are going on. I guess up next, our next time I will see all of you should be April 8th, and our guest will be Susan Schneider, who we're finally going to get to give a talk on really how we can address the climate crisis from a psychology, behavioral psychologist point of view. And also do note that day, April 8th, I wanted to make sure we got in some of the folks who are working on the Promote the Vote petitions. And so at our next Fridays for Future, I will have a representative give a little 5-minute overview from Voters Not Politicians. They're also partnering with the League of Women Voters on, I know there are lots of voting petitions out there. We all really need to be educated very well in this community about what the petitions are, which ones you should sign, and how you too can volunteer with either League of Women Voters or Voters Not Politicians in order to help get that word out. And so Jessica Snyder will also join us on April 8th. So if you're confused about any of that, I can put you in contact now, and we'll have someone on April 8th here to give a quick little overview about how to do some of those things. I think you all hopefully are aware, I got to blast this out. I'll put the link in the chat. On April 9th, well, actually 5th through the 9th, will be the Kalamazoo Foodway Symposium. This is Kalamazoo Valley's community college premier event from the Food Innovation Center. It is a fantastic slate of virtual events, as well as an in-person event on Saturday, April 9th. We're going to be tabling. Please come out and support KVCC and the Food Innovation Center. It's a really wonderful slate of activities going on. And of course, I hope you're all signed up. I cannot wait. I'm starting to get nervous, Ron. We got to compare notes to get to talk to Amitav Ghosh, who will be coming virtually on April 12th. I put that link again through the Center for Ethics is the primary sponsor on that. Make sure you sign up. You have to register for those virtual events, folks. It is a different book club link than our regular book club because it's a special edition. So you will have to register for that through book club, through BookBug. There's also a registration link for the main lecture that evening on April 12th. And then, of course, it's Earth Month, folks. So there's going to be even more going on as we get into the middle of April. And I'll just throw in here right now, Kalamazoo Earth Day Festival is compiling all of the local events that are happening. And so they're the best place to look right now for the overall schedule of everything that is going on. The coalition will have several other events that we'll be putting into that schedule as well. We'll be hosting a climate cafe, which is to deal with eco-anxiety, eco-grief. It's going to be for us old people this time, is how I like to say it. The students at Western have started a fantastic group to run support groups for each other. And I've asked them to do a special session for us so that we can have our own conversation about that. We just finalized last night, thanks to League of Women Voters, we're going to do an environment, and thank you, Sabel, for agreeing to help me out with definitions and context. We're going to do an environmental justice housing forum. Many of you know that the County of Kalamazoo passed a millage, has awarded the first contracts for some projects in town along housing lines, and we want to make sure that they are also considering energy efficiency, our topic today, as well as equity in those decisions. And we're going to host a forum on April 21st, and I'm super excited. The Fridays for Future on April 22nd, the city of Kalamazoo, I know I've said it many times, is actually releasing the sustainability plan. Okay, it's coming out in April. Jamie McCarthy and the Community Development, Sustainable Development Coordinator from the city of Kalamazoo will be here for our April 22nd Earth Day edition of Fridays for Future. So that's all my jazz. Any other announcements, stuff going on that folks want to share before we kick off the program? Yeah, Marianne.
If you haven't had a chance to do this yet, I think you all have received the message that we're looking for people to sign on to a letter to ask MLive to do an Earth Day editorial letter from the editor supporting climate action. Last count, there are over 160 signers. At least 60 of them are from Kalamazoo. So let's keep our numbers up.
Thank you. You have till the end of the day, right?
Right.
Yeah, Rick.
Kalamazoo, the Portage Greenathon on May 1st. It's put on by the Youth Advisory Council and the Portage City Council. So that's May 1st, Portage Greenathon.
Thank you. And other stuff going on that I neglected to talk about, or Miriam, thank you.
The Unitarian Universalist Community Church in Portage has a few events planned for April that we'd like to raise up. We have Janae DeBrule from One World Center in Dowagiac. She's the farm manager, coming on April 10th to talk about sustainable farming and the center's goal of combating world hunger and climate change and building a sustainable future. And on April 24th, we have a minimalist poet, inspirational speaker from Milwaukee, zooming in to present a talk called Poetic Alternative to Consumer Culture. Our services are recorded. You can watch them on Facebook or on our YouTube channel if any of you are interested in that. And I should probably say that Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition will be in the house on April 3rd to talk about your mission, and our church is going to do a special collection in support of the coalition. So just wanted to raise that up. And then our sustainability group is starting a 30-day sustainability challenge for our congregation. It's kind of based on the United Way's social justice challenges they've done, where we send out email with things to read, things to watch, activities and small steps that you can take. And I think that we will be circling back and raising up a lot of the things that we've learned on Fridays for the Future and that the coalition is doing. And if I will put our website into the chat, if you want to come, you can figure out how to sign up for those emails and get details about the other things, but probably not till April 1st because the web weaver is a little bit behind on her catching up on things. So thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam and the UUCC. And I'm so glad. Thank you so much for doing a special service collection on our behalf. We really appreciate that. The funds, we're trying to get our act together and be a 501c3 for real. And so I have a really good direction for where those funds are going to need to be spent to make sure that we can do that right and get a little legal help. Anything else?
This is Dwayne. Just want to mention I'm retiring at 39 days.
I know. Wayne, happy retire. He just comes in every meeting now and says that.
That was not used in the 1970 film letter.
I don't know who's not muted because that's not me. Thanks. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's kick things off here. We've got 3 speakers, a great slate here, and a really important and wonderful topic today. Here with us today, of course, is Better World Builders. Our 3 speakers. First, I'll introduce Isaac Burtman, a graduate of Denison University, class of 2019, believes that comfortable, healthy, and affordable housing is a human right. He's been working at Better World Builders since 2021, starting as a member of the construction crew, and has now transitioned into an energy auditor. Also with us today is Shawn Farrell, graduate from the University of Michigan in 2020, a degree focused on environmental science and urban development. He's passionate about sustainable built environments and protecting our natural environment. He's worked at Better World Builders for over a year as an energy auditor, helping make homes healthy, comfortable, and efficient. Last but not least, Mark Lee earned 2 degrees from Western Michigan University in engineering and environmental studies. While at WMU, he led the registered student organization, Students for a Sustainable Earth, to bring the student busing system to campus. So we have him to thank for that. And in 2009, he founded Better World Builders, again, with the goal of making a better world by helping homeowners create energy efficient houses. You all should know for all of his work in town, and because he's a WMU alumni, he was awarded the Alumni Achievement Award from the Institute Environment and Sustainability, which was a very proud moment in all of our careers. Getting off the grid does not happen overnight. Mark has worked with hundreds of homeowners in Kalamazoo who want to make a difference by making their home more efficient and durable for years to come. Better World Builders seeks to integrate their work with all those weatherization loan programs like Michigan Saves in Southwest Michigan that help low-income families and all of us really save on our energy bills. So he creates lots of pathways for you to be able to actually do this work. With every new customer, Better World Builders initiates another steward for the environment and moves Kalamazoo one building closer to sustainability. And Mark, you know I have to say it, Kalamazoo is not going to be the most sustainable city in the county. No. How about the most sustainable city in the state? No. How about the most sustainable city in the country?
We can go for the world. I think we
Yeah.
go for the world.
The most sustainable city in the world. That's how I love to introduce you. With that, I will turn it over. Thank you so much, Better World Builders, Isaac, Shawn, and Mark for being here with us today.
Well, great, Denise. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, the kind words. We're all 3 of us are very excited to be here. You know, I definitely a believer that it does take this type of event, these type of small local, hyper local events to really, you know, move the needle, change the world. It truly is a little bit of that butterfly effect. If you could believe in the butterfly effect, that, you know, just that gentle flutter of a butterfly is somewhere around the world can turn the lever for something that happens here in Michigan, in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm excited to be here today, and I'm actually really excited to introduce Isaac and Shawn. I would like to have them just kind of say a few words before we get into our presentation. They're two excellent gentlemen that have joined on to Better World Builders, and they share this common belief that they take the job seriously. They have a great technical knowledge. They have a great presence with our customers, but they also really understand and believe in what we're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Isaac first and have him just say a few words.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac. A lot of you may know my dad, Steve, and my mom, Joan Hawkshurst, who's on the call. I love working for Better World Builders. I grew up in Kalamazoo and have always loved all the old houses we have around here. But I think anyone who has been in more than 3 or 4 of them have been in one that is not so comfortable anymore and is maybe even falling apart. So finding a place where we could work on those houses and make them sort of livable is important for me, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
Hey, I'm just hovering in the background, but I'm Shawn Farrell. Yeah, I also grew up here in Kalamazoo. My parents actually grew up just down the street in the Millwood neighborhood, both of them, just a few blocks apart. And again, yeah, I've been here over a year, and I've also really enjoyed working here because it's really interesting to take our old houses and help them run like new again. I think that's what Better World Builders is all about, is, you know, new construction. We can really, it's beautiful. It's awesome to do new LEED buildings and green buildings, but really there's a huge amount of our housing stock here in the city that is very old, that we don't want to fall apart. We don't want to be a bulldozer bait that Mark says sometimes. So I think one of the work that we do is really helping keep our city stock alive and more durable in the future. So it's really fun to learn about our old houses, to get in those old houses that you drive by, that you finally get to go inside and see what they're like. And that's been really fun. Mm-hmm. Learned a lot so far.
Great.
Here you go, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you can tell I'm super honored to work with these guys, because they are. I've been doing this for, as Denise kind of alluded to, ever since my days at Western, I've been I found myself as far as realizing that sustainability and environmental studies and learning about the environment is really just key to the whole future of where we're going to go. And so it's such an honor to have two younger guys working with me and knowing that it's multi-generational. It's all of us that have to kind of push this way forward. But going with this thing on the Fridays for the Future, love these events because they really focus on the education side of what's possible, what's new and upcoming, what's old and that really worked in the past, and you don't have to give up on some of the old practices to still be sustainable and kind of continue to build a better world. So we have our presentation today is about I'm gonna jump into, and I'm gonna actually start to share our screen. Yes, all good. Everyone can hear us okay?
We can hear you okay, and you should have that capability. So take it away.
Okay, great. So starting the share side, and push that button. All right. So, what Better World Builders is about. I started Better World Builders back in 2009 or so with the idea of how to building a better world. It really involves using what we have and making it more efficient. And we try to do that one house at a time. So what we have relabeled a little bit of this idea of energy efficiency in when we talk about houses or buildings that we work and play or worship in. Instead of talking about energy efficiency, we actually have learned over the years a better term to use, home performance or building performance. And in fact, there is a whole, both Isaac and Shawn just actually took their field exams today. They took a rigorous course and to become building analyst. And the building analyst is a certification provided by a nationally recognized organization called Building Performance Institute. If anyone who is interested in home science or building performance or just understanding how a structure works, the BPI, Building Performance Institute website or organization is really a great place to start. I became BPI certified as a building performance and an envelope professional and energy auditor back in 2008 or 2007, somewhere in there. They depend on you continuing your education to continue your recertification. But real proud of the fact that both Isaac and Shawn hit their field exam today, and they passed it.
Both passed. Yep.
Both passed. So yep, good thumbs up on that one. So building performance, energy efficiency, and healthy homes. So that's the subject of what we're going to talk about. Some of these slides, some of the people in here may have seen before. And just bear with us because this is a continually evolving thing. Better World Builders has been involved in the low-income weatherization program. It was initially sponsored by Kalamazoo County. Now it's actually it's called the Southwest Michigan Community Action Agency, and they handle 4 counties. Great program. The Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Association is also doing things. Community Homeworks is also doing things. These are organizations that are all trying to help provide better housing and energy efficiency to these houses. The one key thing that I think is very important for all of us to recognize is energy efficiency can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So when you make a house energy efficient, one of the key things in making it energy efficient and more comfortable is to tighten it up so that you don't have so many drafts. And if you don't have as many drafts and your house is tighter, well, you still need to have fresh air for the house to function properly and for the occupants inside that house to live a thorough life and a full fulfilling life in that house. So some of the things we're going to talk about today and we're going to zero in on some of these things, is about healthy homes. And the critical part of this double-edged sword. You can have a tight energy efficient house, but it's got to still be healthy, or you get into this sick home syndrome that is a real thing. So on that note, I'm going to keep on going here with our steps to energy efficiency. This is one of the underlying, this is one of our underlying goals, is to help homeowners and just homes. You know, it doesn't matter if you're own it or not. Maybe it's a landlord owned house, but I think there's going to continue to be this awareness that awakens in Kalamazoo specifically, because it's a college town. There's a lot of landlords in this town, and I think some students may be interested in renting from that landlord that has a zero net energy house. They want to, you know, this is part of the next generation. We're going to be passing the planet on to them. So they may be asking this of their landlord, saying, hey, you know, is the house energy efficient? Can you make it a zero net energy house? And to get there, it does take steps. We talk about this in our sense of, we'd love to see the idea that Kalamazoo is the most sustainable city or the most sustainable place in the world does require going after our housing. We have 101,000 houses in Kalamazoo County, 27 or 37,000 houses just in the city of Kalamazoo. And if we could convert all of these houses or a good part of them to become a zero net energy house, ooh, that would be just, you know, one of another first for Kalamazoo. So, you know, if we kind of get in that idea of, you know, Kalamazoo loves I think it thrives on that ego of being first in many things. We have an opportunity to continue that part. So this diagram just talks about this, you know, step 1, step 2, all the way through step 9. A lot of the parts that Better World Builders involves in, and many homeowners can start to do just even without having professional involvement here, but going after these low cost tips of just changing your bills by shutting your refrigerator. You know, when you open up the refrigerator to figure out what's for dinner, you know, staring at it for 5 or 10 minutes still wastes a lot of energy. So being able to close it down, turning off lights, turning off TVs, turning off stereos when you're not using them. Those are some just key behavioral things that all of us could do for free. Lighting has become super inexpensive. And I think the majority of the population has kind of shifted over on that one. Caulking and weather stripping out, sealing around your windows, sealing around the base of a trim of a house also helps. Getting into air sealing and insulation. All these things are happening right now. We're in an interesting time where when you start to talk about steps 4, 5, and 6, these are areas when you're starting to work with heat pumps, and heat pumps have become a game changer. They've become a game changer because we're starting to make houses have this beneficial electrification, and now it actually is feasible with houses that are properly air sealed and properly insulated to power that whole thing, instead of using a gas fired furnace or a propane fired furnace, to actually use a heat pump that extracts out heat from the outside air and concentrates it and brings that heat into your house during the winter time. It could be -5 degrees out. This is how far heat pump technology has come. It could be -5 degrees out and still pull out heat from the outside air and bring it into your house, and your whole house can be comfortably warm. So heat pumps have become a long way. We've also seen a great piece of using heat pumps in water heaters. We've been installing a lot of those. Even some of the best natural gas water heaters cost over $150 to operate a year, whereas these heat pump water heaters just use electricity only, and they cost about $100 a year to operate. So there's some great things that happen here. Heat pump technology, you know, if you think about when you're burning gas, you get you know, so many therms or so much amount of energy from that gas, and you only get to burn it once. When we talk about heat pump technology, you're actually able to capture a 300 to 500% energy efficiency based on this refrigeration cycle. I saw Molly Williams on here. She was a physics, an engineering professor for me a long time ago, and she knows about this technology. And I'm glad to see you on here. But I learned so much from you back in the day, so thanks. Anyway, love heat pump technology because it's starting to really actually make financial sense to integrate this into houses. And this is part of our steps and pathway to bring energy efficiency and zero energy performance to houses. So, but the double-edged sword part, I'm going to get into this. When we look at a house, we look at it as a house as a whole system. So when we look at this, in this picture, it's talking about these red arrows are during the heating season, how heat can leave a house. There's, in most of our houses that are in this area, there's a lot of leaky places in the house. What we typically do to help figure that out is we'll use a blower door. So there's technology now that you can use, such as a blower door and an infrared imaging camera, to find out where those leaky spots are and zero in on those areas to seal up that stuff and make a house energy efficient. These are just a few of the spots when we think of this whole house system approach, where a lot of times it's in an attic area or sometimes a little cantilever overhang. These are areas where heat leaks out as well. And when we make a house perform well, we are going after sealing those areas up. In many cases, a lot of heat goes up through our attic areas. Almost 40% goes up through our attic. And here's an interesting part. If you don't know this already, but heat rises up. Most of us know this. During the wintertime, we're in Michigan, so I talk about heat because that's our going from heating our houses in a 30-degree day to make it comfortable inside to 68 or 70 degrees takes a lot of energy. So during the wintertime, 40% of our heat can actually escape up through our ceiling and right up into the attic. Once it gets past our ceiling or living space, it's gone forever. We never get to recapture it again. But for every cubic foot of air that goes up and out, another cubic foot of air it gets drawn in or sucked in. And a lot of that actually happens right around the foundation of the house. Cold air is dense, and that cold, dry air ends up getting pulled in almost like by a vacuum effect because the house walls are rigid. And so as heat rises up, every cubic foot of air that leaves the house, another cubic foot of air has to come in to displace it, and it gets sucked in around the rim joist. So when you add up this through the attic and through the foundation, this is like 70% of the heat loss that can happen in a house. And you start to realize, oh, okay, these are my big things to go after first. Windows and doors, very popular, but they're not necessarily a big energy efficiency gain when you do those. Wall insulation, a huge comfort part, but we don't lose as much energy through the walls, but it certainly makes us feel a lot more comfortable when the attic and the foundation are already taken care of. So building on this, once we get this envelope tight, now we start to have to look at the parts that can make our house sick. So there's a lot of dots that we connect when we talk about home performance. So energy efficiency is great, but it has to go hand in hand with ensuring that we do not have unintended consequences. An unintended consequence when we talk about homes and energy efficiency is you may make the house energy efficient by making it nice and tight, but if you don't address the other underlying issues around the house, you can actually trap more moisture in your house. And if you're trapping more moisture in your house, you can end up making the house sick or have mold growth in the house. So this diagram, I think, is a great one. Many houses, and it's also an energy efficiency step too, without doing any other investment in your house. If you can correct any water that comes into your house, you are going to save energy. So I imagine many people in this audience have a dehumidifier. You're going to get that dehumidifier out. You're going to set it up in your basement here in the near future. We're in the spring season and it's going to rain just like it rained 3 days, 2 days. The past 2 days, we had a good amount of rain come down. It's not going to be, we're not going to be terribly surprised anymore if we have these 3 or 4 days of just solid rain. That's part of the climate change that's happening. But how we react to it and how our homes can manage it is a really key way of defining how resilient and how energy efficient we can be. So I'm not sure if anyone's in this audience has ever had a flood in their basement or been part of it or known somebody that's been part of it. You know that when you get a flood in your basement, a whole bunch of energy is used to dry out that water. First, you got to suck it out with a pump. Then you're now trying to use a combination of fans and dehumidifiers to commercially just pull out the moisture out of the air before. And it's critical to do that, because if you get all that moisture dries up into your house, you could really have a moldy house. That's the one incident per basis there. The other part is just this idea of what happens in a house on a normal basis. Many of us, as you walk around and you start to do your spring cleaning, look around your house and look around for signs of standing water around your house. Any house that has the dirt grade leaning back toward your house can create standing water around your house. And many of our basements are Michigan basements, or even poured wall basements, cinder block wall basements. These cement is porous, so water will migrate through any amount of cement that you have. And if that water gets into your basement, then now you have to spend more money and more energy to dry it up before it becomes a health hazard. So controlling water is a big issue, and we talk about that a lot. We actually come back, this is part of our thing of when Better World Builders is trying to think of a house and analyzing that house. We try to connect dots. So frequently, if we find a house that has big icicles, big icicles during the winter, we typically know that during the spring and summertime, they're bringing that humidifier down in their basement because so much water has accumulated around the drip edge of their house that now it's just going to end up drying up into their house. So a well-insulated attic and an air-sealed attic will minimize icicles. And when you minimize icicles, that also helps control the water that comes into the house. This is a house that we just checked out in Battle Creek. I just was here a week ago, and it's really rather incredible how much mold has just colonized in this woman's house. This is a manufactured house over in the Battle Creek area, and I'm just going to zero in here because oops, I'm going to zero in this way. Can I zero in?
The touchscreen's a little tricky.
There we go. So this down in the lower, I'm going to draw our attention down to the lower left corner here. This is all this stuff right here. This is mold colonies. If you start to see this or any of this shadowing, any areas where you start to see little dots in some form patterns on any surface, whether it be a wall surface or up in your ceiling. Sometimes you'll see it on the underside of your rim joist, and then you will see it here. But just even little white dots or little black dots, those could be the signs of you having a moisture issue and mold colonies starting to form in your house. This particular house, this woman had water get in her basement, and it became a little uncontrollable, and she didn't get it dried out in time. And then this was the result of it not getting dried out. She let it dry out naturally, and you could see all along the walls the mold forming here. It also formed in all of her rim joists, and that's what you could see visibly. The interesting part about another sign of what was going on with this house is on her main level. This is down in her basement. The three pictures. The three pictures are here. These are all down in her basement, but on her main level, it was a very clean house. She kept a very tidy house, and you would not have known that there was a mold problem there unless you went down to the basement, or if you looked in the back of the house. And so this was the other part of how this mold has permeated her whole house, and it's affecting her health in a drastic way. But when we look outside of her house, this is on the north side of her house, but you could see the moisture had dried up, passed through her living area on the main level, and then the rest of that moisture ended up being pushed right up into her attic area. And what we could see here was outside of the soffit, around the gutter edge, we could see these black spots, and all of this was because the air in the attic was pushing itself out through these soffits. And then it was clinging to the siding, and this house was basically a very sick house, and so it's top to bottom sick. It all started because of an incident that wasn't addressed immediately, but it actually all started from this one gutter back here in this corner of her house. And that was the origins of it. So just as we go into the rainy season to talk about this, because it's a serious thing. And if you have a tight house already, it could be amplified quite a bit. So mold is a key part in discussing how healthy homes can be can actually is actually more important than the energy efficiency. So, we got to kind of take care of ourselves first. If you can't take care of yourself first, then taking care of the house doesn't really matter. It's I just wanted to say one of my most positive experiences I've had at this company so far was a weatherization job we did in Battle Creek also that had a lot of mold issues as well. And the woman who was living there was having tons and tons of breathing problems. Got so bad that she had to use a CPAP machine every night. Wasn't sure what was going on. We came in, found all the mold, got rid of the mold and sealed up the fundamental problems that was causing it. And then as soon as we were gone, didn't have to use the CPAP machine anymore. And so that felt really, really good to be able to make the space where you spend so much of your time healthier for folks who are living there. Yeah, that was so Better World Builders was part of this program that was sponsored by Semco. It was a pilot program. Semco is a gas company that services Battle Creek. It services Three Rivers and a couple other spot areas in the state of Michigan. But they ran a healthy homes program. And actually, I really feel that our county or any of these other housing programs that are out there trying to go after energy efficiency, they should try to learn something from this Healthy Homes pilot. The Healthy Homes pilot, the way they ran it was a little different. They had money for low-income folks to weatherize their house, but this one they actually specifically found people who had health issues, specifically asthma or breathing issues, and they found those folks, and then we did an evaluation on their house. So the nice part was they asked Better World Builders, go to the house, develop a scope of work for the house to correct all of the issues, to correct all of the home performance issues, and to get at the root cause of why that house was not healthy. And like Isaac's saying, he was personally on that job when physically working and helping our team correct that issue. But it was such a great program because it was one of the first ones that I know of that actually put the health aspect first, and then connected the dots that health, energy efficiency, and healthy housing makes for a good model in addressing many things. People who are in the low income spectrum, they frequently are struggling just to figure out their regular bills and the challenges that come with everyday life. But when a health issue starts to crop up in their house and they don't know how to handle it, then it really becomes a critical part for it becomes a hurdle. And having multiple hurdles in your life, it just can lower your spirit quite a bit. And it was a really uplifting moment when we found out this customer, she and her family did not have to use their CPAP machines at night after we were done. We found a lot that was wrong with the house. I mean, there was a hidden to us when we were re-insulating the walls on the house. The one wall that was right by her bedroom where she slept at night, that one wall had so much water inside the wall cavity. You wouldn't be able to see it just by looking at it from the outside, but it had so much water in that cavity that wall cavity was filled with mold. It had fiberglass in there, so it looked like it was insulated, but it had fiberglass and mold. And all of that mold was right next to her head every night that she slept. So if you can imagine, you're breathing the deepest when you're sleeping, you're relaxing, your body is just absorbing all of these toxins and other things that are happening in your house. And it was a great event for us to be a part of. So anyway, mold is one of our big indoor air quality issues that we look at for healthy homes. A few other ones that we also talk about, and these are some key ones that everyone should kind of be able to recognize. If you go up into your attic and you see this, you can find this in walls and in attics, but typically we'll find them in attics. And this insulation right here is called Vermiculite. Many of us might be familiar with it for vermiculite from potting soils and stuff. We also used to use it, a lot of it as an insulator. It's a natural occurring mineral. They mine for it. The vermiculite, they mine for it, and then they put it under pressure, and then they let it expand. And the expanded particles make a great insulation. They also help with aerating soil too. So that's why you see them in potted plants. A lot of this vermiculite material was mined in Libby, Montana. In Libby, Montana, they had the vermiculite mined, and then just across the street, not quite literally, but just in the nearby area was also an asbestos mine. So, you know, in the geological formations, a lot of the veins of that asbestos material went right into the vermiculite area. And so when they were mining for the vermiculite and making insulation out of it, they also ended up capturing a lot of asbestos material in that product. So this is very common in Kalamazoo. I would say 1 in 20 houses has this. It looks like this. It looks shiny. It looks silvery. If you have it in your attic and you notice it, you know, calmly extract yourself from there. Try not to kick up a lot of dust, but calmly extract yourself from there. Give an asbestos abatement contractor a call, or call Better World Builders. We'll come out and sample it. But and we know how to sample it safely. But it's not something that you should have in your house. It's not something that you should insulate over. I've seen other insulation people just insulate right on top of it, and it's like, you just made the problem worse, because now we have more contaminated material, and now it's going to be more expensive to abate it. But the process of abating it can be done very safely, and it is done very safely. We do it frequently, and once again, this is one of those other things that we feel great about when we do for a homeowner, because it's a silent piece. Asbestos, for those who don't know, asbestos is it's kind of like PFAS. It's one of those forever things. Asbestos can break down. It's a crystal, but it breaks down into, or a mineral that breaks down, and it can break down into such microscopic particles that it just floats in the air. And if you breathe it into your lungs, it becomes like, it has like the specific gravity of stainless steel, and it can just get into your lungs, and it pops it does damage to the lungs. And so that's the big thing about asbestos. It gets down into smaller and smaller particles. The smaller and smaller particles have jagged edges to it, so when it gets into your lungs, it will lodge itself into that tissue, and then that's what can cause cancer and other things along that line. So asbestos is a big deal. Vermiculite specifically, that's what we see a lot in houses. We also see asbestos around pipe wrap. I have some pictures of around in this lower corner. Many houses also in Kalamazoo. So we're talking about identifying what you have in your house, and if you have these potential hazards, you should be aware of them. It looks just like simple paper, but it's right around your ductwork. A lot of oil-based furnaces, when we were burning oil or when we were burning coal back in the day, they used this asbestos pipe wrap around there to mitigate the fire hazard because those pipes got really hot. And this type of material, it can become very brittle and very friable. So if you try to remove it yourself, it creates a little plume of once again some of that asbestos dust, and you could breathe it in. If you were to go about this yourself, there are videos out there. As personal homeowners, you can go after correcting this yourself. There's ways to encapsulate it, where you put a heavy encapsulant paint over it, and that stabilizes the material from becoming airborne. Or frequently it's removed as well. If you're removing it, make sure you have the right proper protective gear. Use a lot of spray water on that, spray bottle water on that, and there's information on how to do it safely. We have our professional methods of doing it. When we do it professionally, we will actually use a glove bag to encapsulate it, and then lots of plastic, lots of spray water to wet it down, and then we cut all of that stuff off. Another hazard that we find in and around houses is animal excrement. mouse poop, bat poop, rats as well, sometimes raccoons. Raccoons, you usually know that they're in your house, or squirrels, you know that you're in their house. And so we usually take action on that. Frequently with mice, bats, and rats, we don't necessarily know that they're in our house. And we find them a lot in attics. We find a lot of their damage in attics. The fiberglass, they love crawling around in fiberglass. And the parts that there's a lot of pathogens in their excrement. And so that's the thing that we try to go after. When we clean up an attic, we take out all that old insulation so we can help make it safer inside the house. Mouse urine, when it dries, it becomes crystallized. And so that crystallized dried urine also becomes a lung irritant. And so that can become airborne in a house. So those are some key things that, if you do have animal damage up in your attic or in your house, in the basement, it's not too much, that's easy to handle. But if it's up in your attic, that could be a little bit more of a challenging thing to do to handle on the personal level. Once again, it's a good idea to kind of get that assessed to figure out, how bad it is. The things that we do, we actually have when we send our employees in attics now, we actually do a pre-treatment where we fog the air in those attic areas, just so that we can make sure that our own employees are not getting, it helps on our, like a personal protective activity, so that we can make sure that when we're sending any of our employees into in an attic space, that the risks are lowered for mold, animal excrement. And we do that by using a hydrogen peroxide based fogging chemical that kills bacteria, viruses, mold. It mitigates animal urine, and so it just helps us feel more comfortable when we go into those areas. Another common household danger is radon. So many folks who have bought a house recently, they'll have a radon test done, and February is Radon Awareness Month, or January is Radon Awareness Month. Great thing to do. You can actually $10, you can $10 or $15, you can get a radon test and set it up in your house and do an exposure test over 3 days and learn where your radon levels are. Not very expensive to mitigate, under $2,000 typically to mitigate put in an active radon mitigation system. So these are some health and safety issues that we see in houses that I think everyone should be aware of.
Hey, Mark, a quick question maybe on mold, because it came up in the chat right now. Are there other ways to measure your mold from the air quality, or is it just a visual assessment, is the question that a lot of people kind of have in the chat right now?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So if you see mold, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, great. If you see mold in a house, we just kind of say it's going to be toxic mold. There's 5 toxic molds that really have that are bad for humans. There's lots of mold out there, but there's really 5 ones that are very common in households. But when you see mold in a house, you can kind of just assume, hey, this is a dangerous mold, and treat it. Common ways a household can treat mold is by using hydrogen peroxide. We like hydrogen peroxide. Even the little brown bottles you buy at the drugstore, you could use that. You spray it on there, you let it sit for a couple hours, and it'll start to bubble up and it'll kill that mold. We have a higher concentration that we use for on a professional level. That's one way you get rid of it. But to test for mold, the way that we test for mold, there's a couple places in town that do it too. Wonder Makers is one. The Wonder Makers, for a few $100s, they'll send you a box, and the box contains a couple air sampling pieces of equipment in there, and you set that up, and you pull an air sample from your house. Usually you would pull that air sample. This is how you know if you have a lot of mold in your house. You could set one up by one of your return registers. You could set one up in the basement. You could set one up in the main living area or in a bedroom. And these mold air sampling pieces of equipment, they pull air. You run it for 15 minutes, and it pulls a sample of air from the house. And any mold spores that are floating around in the house, they'll stick to stick to the film that's in there, and then it can be analyzed for specifically what type of mold it is. So, and that's a service we do as well, but if you wanted to do an at-home one, Wonder Makers is one that you can utilize. It's a local company as well. It's just right here in Kalamazoo. It's over here on the in our great Edison neighborhood that we're located in. So yeah, those are some of the. And there are other ways, some other ways that looking for mold, signs of mold. You can take actually a piece of tape and actually physically pull off some mold from an area. And if you have kids and you have a microscope, kind of a fun little thing to do. Take some Scotch tape, go to that piece of mold, and then actually lay it right on top of that mold and rip it off, and then put it under a microscope, and you'll actually see the mold formations there, and it's pretty interesting. So yeah, interesting stuff along that line. Feel free, Denise, if you don't mind pointing out any questions that come across, that would be great. We'd love to answer any questions. I'll kind of pick up the pace here because I see I don't want to go on to too much time here. I do want to point out a couple other things, what experience we have run across and other household dangers that can happen in a house. This little picture right here on the upper left, this is inside of a furnace. And what the highlight here is, this is an older furnace, but this is the heat exchanger of the furnace. So furnaces work by, you're combusting natural gas, you're mixing it with air, it's going through a metal heat exchanger, and then it's exhausted, that gas is exhausted out. And then you have a fan that blows over that heat exchanger, and then that air is now warmed up and then distributed throughout your house. If you have a cracked heat exchanger in your furnace, the potential hazard for the homeowner is it can now create carbon monoxide. You have incomplete combustion in that heat exchanger. The air is going over that heat exchanger, and now you have incomplete combustion, and you have some exhaust gases that's now being spread throughout your whole house. So you can have carbon monoxide, that silent, not tasteless, odorless gas, just like radon, but it's one of those tasteless, odorless gases that can kill you as well. Having a carbon monoxide meter is a good idea. A lot of people think I have a carbon monoxide meter on my ceiling. That's not such a good idea, but because carbon monoxide is heavier than air. So if you want to have a carbon monoxide meter in your house, good idea to use one of your outlets that's on the wall that's about 17 inches off of the ground or 18 inches off the ground, because the carbon monoxide, if it's gonna accumulate in your house, it's going to accumulate in your basement, and it's going to accumulate on the lower levels of your floor. So they don't talk about this enough, that carbon monoxide detectors should not be on your ceiling. Smoke detectors should be on your ceiling. Carbon monoxide detectors, no. Another thing that we found that has affected indoor air quality is botched up insulation jobs. And what we're looking at here in this middle picture on the top row is ductwork that actually an insulator had punctured a hole in the exterior wall. They didn't realize that there was a duct there. They ended up packing up that duct work with insulation. And then every time that furnace kicked on or air conditioner kicked on, it blew a puff of dust into the house. And now everyone was just breathing it. This is the same house. This picture right next to it on the right, this is the same house. And you can actually see how much dust this is right around the ductwork. And you can see how much dust was in their furnace, in the ductwork system of their HVAC system. So that's just another sign. If you go down, another self-check, a great self-check. If you go down into your basement and you start to look at your ductwork, look at the places where it's connected to the trunk line, where there's a round takeoff on a rectangular duct. Look at those areas. And if you start to see wisps of dust or wisps of black lines coming off of it, one, you have leaky ducts, but two, that it's also a sign that your ductwork can be also dirty and transporting a lot of that dirt throughout the house. We find that a lot of the dirt actually comes from when we get into an attic, we seal up our attics because we know a lot of that dirt ends up filtering down into the house, and then it just gets recirculated in our everyday life and through our systems here. So we take a lot of time when we're up in an attic to actually remove old failed insulation and seal everything up. Like in this picture right here, underneath this piece of fiberglass, here's a electrical wire going through a wall cavity, and this insulation was pink at one time, but now it's kind of a gray color and it's really dirty. It's because air from the house has leaked through this hole in the wall and made that insulation dirty. We look at it as, hey, if we seal it up, we're sealing in, we're making the house more energy efficient. If we can get rid of this old insulation, then we're making the house healthier. So when they have that right combination, it really can make it has a powerful impact on the whole health and effectiveness and efficiency of the house. A lot of times there's a lot of poison up in attics too, and so you have decaying dead animals up in your attic, and that's also decaying. So not trying to paint an ugly picture, but it's just a real one, and we want to make people aware of the dangers that's up there. This is just an example of some poorly insulated walls. We've gotten into taking, some of this was some people may see this on TV or on the internet of this injection foam, and I'm not a big fan of it. And I'll just be honest with you, I don't like it at all, and I'm not trying to bash anything about it, but it doesn't work. We've taken a lot of it out. This is an injection foam where you may have seen this tube inside of a wall cavity, and it's pushing away the fiberglass insulation. This is what it looks like when they're done. And you can kind of see when they're done, you may be paying for something that is useless. And so I guess this is just one of the values that Better World Builders has. We have a deep empathy for our own homeowners who paid for something that turned out to be useless and a waste of money. And I find this stuff to be a waste of money. It's a water-based injection foam insulation. This is some of it right here. It's a water-based injection foam insulation. So when it's injected into the wall cavities, since it's water-based, if you could picture that your house is made up of wood studs, those wood studs are very dry. So they have this tendency, once that foam is injected into your walls, most of the moisture, that water, migrates to your wood studs. And when it's migrating to your wood studs, it makes that insulation shrink a little bit. So that's the problem with this particular type of insulation. And there's our public service announcement on it. But you can kind of visualize what this is what we've run into, and we've found. If I zeroed in on these areas, you would actually see that it's you could actually see in some areas where it's pulled right away from the wall cavities, and there's these big gaps in between the insulation. Gaps in insulation it makes that insulation, the whole insulation system, useless. It's kind of like wearing a sweater with a big hole in the middle of that sweater. It's not going to keep you warm. That's what insulation's like. So this is our part of the strategy that I think all homeowners should be aware of. Even these agencies that have good meaning in trying to help make these low-income houses energy efficient and help solve some of the housing crisis that we have going on. But behavior and awareness is a great step one. Step two, having a plan that looks at the whole system. The whole system is really, I can't emphasize it enough. When you look at the whole picture and you have a plan going after the whole picture, it just makes life a lot easier. If you think if you think you're going to just solve one problem at a time, that's okay. But what problem should you solve first, so that your plan goes into effect and is executed well? When you don't do that, sometimes in step three, it can cause some health concerns. So we do find once you have your plan, health and safety is really the first thing to go after in any household, because we rely on our houses to take care of us. And if it's not taking care of us, well, they can actually hurt us. And so we want to just be mindful of that. Taking care of health and safety concerns first and foremost is the best thing to do. And it's the step that is the precursor before doing the tightening activity and insulating that building. Once the tightening and insulating is done into the building, then step 5, this is the fun part where we start getting into heat pump technology and sizing. Even if you stay on natural gas, or propane, that's not a bad thing as long as you're using it effectively. The way to use it effectively is to actually size it to the tightness of your house and size it to how well your house is insulated. There's a lot of people buy expensive HVAC equipment that has multiple stages, and that's great, but we look at it as those are systems that are problem solving. They're solving the problem because you have a loose house. If you have a tight and energy efficient house, you could actually rely on a very simple furnace and air conditioner and stay very comfortable without having the extra expense of the fancy equipment. Once those things kind of come into play, and water heaters also, love water heater technology right now. I really do. Water heaters can be a battery, a physical battery in your house. So that's why I'm really pro. I think as a company, Better World Builders has been very much pro heat pump water heaters. It uses the heat, the latent heat from your basement area or in your house. It pulls that heat out of the air, pumps that into the water tank itself, and then the byproduct is cool, dry air. So that cool, dry air is great during the summertime because it's like running a dehumidifier in your basement, but you're getting the side benefit of taking, when you run a dehumidifier in your basement, you find that there's warm air coming off of it. Well, this is taking that warm air and actually pumping it into your water tank. And so it's capturing that heat and using it twice. So just love the efficiency of when you have an opportunity to make something drier and then also capture the energy from there and store it in water. That's why I think I'm a big fan of these heat pump water heaters. But then of course, once all these things are all dialed in, you open yourself up to an efficient home, and then also starts to make sense of saying, oh, now I could step into this solar world. You can also step into solar world anytime, because we all are using electricity. So you can step into the solar world anytime, but then as you start to develop your house and your plan and replacing gas equipment, then we can continue solar can continue to grow with the more electricity that you use in your house. So these are some, there's more ways than one to fry this fish. And that is, these are one steps. Solar can still be integrated at any point in time because we still are all using electricity. But the lion's share of our energy pie is in almost every house, the majority, more than 50% of our energy use is to keep our house heated and cooled. And so that's where we talk about that. But the other 30-40% of your electricity pie is just running the lights and your TV and your computer and everything else. So solar can still happen at any time. We're a proponent of it, but there's also the way to get to that zero net energy in a way that fits budgets. So that's a little bit of what I have to share with you guys today. As Isaac and Shawn both talked about, building a better world. It's not just one company that's going to do it. It's not just one individual that's going to do it. We need people that are interested in this. We need people who are fearless and have an aptitude and have a sense of being part of something that's bigger than just themselves. And Better World Builders, yes, we're hiring crew members, we're hiring installers. We give full training on this. We have benefits, we have healthcare benefits and dental benefits and paid vacation and all those things. We have a great paid training program. So we're looking for individuals who are interested in that way. We're also, this year we're looking for a summer intern so we can help it takes, I valued a lot of my time at Western. I had an internship at Post Cereals. It was very, very valuable to me. So if we can extend that and continue that idea of training individuals with an internship that are Western students, we would love to do that. So yeah, on that note, we greatly appreciate this time to talk to you all. And if there's questions, we'd love to hear any questions or concerns or thoughts or feedback. We're here for you guys. So I'll turn it back to Denise to help facilitate.
Well, yay. Thank you so much. And if you stop sharing, I bet you'll see everyone giving you a round of applause as our usual MO here.
Great.
There they are. There's everybody back.
Oh, hi.
Right.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, everyone gives you a little wave. We know how to use our reaction buttons in Zoom. Thank you so much. Everybody's going to be looking around their house later today, and you're hopefully will see a noticeable spike in phone calls to Better World Builders this afternoon. I did have a question, and Ashley Glass is here, who sits on the township trustee and also works at Western with many of us. We've been trying to explore, maybe you can talk just a little bit about some of the financial assistance programs that are out there in order to do some of this work.
Okay, great. Yeah. So there is for income qualified folks, there is there's a countywide administered program, and that is managed by the CASM. Community Action Agency for Southern Michigan, CASM, CAAS, South Central Michigan, CAASCM. Thanks. They're actually located on Westage. They're not, their office is located on Westage. They're next door to the Shawarma King on Westage. So you could stop in there. There's a gentleman named Jeffrey Short. He runs the program, and that's a great option. Another option, they have been receiving some financial assistance through Consumers Energy, as well as some state and county dollars or Department of Energy dollars. And that is KNHS, Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Association. They're starting to do some more too. And Community Homeworks, I believe they're partnering with them too. So Community Homeworks, if you don't know that organization, great organization, because they're really for helping people understand how houses work, and they run workshops, and they run they just try to do the best they can to reach out to the community. And then additionally, some other ways for people to take part in making their house more energy efficient. Better World Builders, we're a trade ally with Consumers Energy. So Consumers Energy, they have a couple different rebate programs. Their best rebate program, the one that has the most dollars for the homeowners, that the homeowners can get back, is their program that's called Home Performance with Energy Star. Home Performance with Energy Star. It's a great program. That one requires an energy audit to be done to the house and a blower door test to actually be done to the house. We find this one to be the most popular among our, we like this program the most because it based everything in the fact of looking at it and prioritizing. And so the Home Performance with Energy Star program is a great program. They give you rebates based on individual measures you do, air sealing up your ductwork, insulating your attic, insulating your walls. Each of those are considered a measure, even cleaning and tuning your furnace. And then if you do multiple measures, they give you an extra bonus. So that's another great program. Consumers Energy also has a program called their Windows and Insulation program. The rebate's about half as much, but that's something that you could do yourself, and you could just apply for that one directly yourself, which makes it very accessible to a lot of folks as well. From a financing standpoint, there is so that's some of the rebates that are available. Oh, also along the lines on the Healthy Homes rebate side, there is if you have vermiculite insulation in your house. Vermiculite insulation, once again, that's that shiny crystal, that puffy stuff that's up in an attic. There is a a trust fund called ZAI Trust, but it stands for the Zonalite Attic Trust. And ZAI is there's a history of how it was funded. I won't go into that, but basically the bottom line is you can get up to about $4,100 from the ZAI Trust to help properly extract out and abate the insulation, that vermiculite insulation that's in your house, and re-insulate it. So they cover up to 55% of the total project to extract out and re-insulate, and they cap out at $4,100. So that's another one. There's nothing in the world on the mold side, unfortunately, but a lot of houses go through mold, and mold is something just to keep an eye out for. We have a product here that we could sell even to a homeowner if they want to use it. We could sell it to them. It's for a half gallon. It's about $60 for a half a gallon, but it's this hydrogen peroxide stuff, and you can put it in a spray bottle and you can use it to directly address small mold issues. If you have big old mold issues, or even mold concerns, then we recommend just calling in some professionals or doing some at-home tests through Wonder Makers or Better World Builders. I don't know of any other ones. Mold Busters, I forgot his name. There's another one that's out there that he does a great job on the mold front. It'll come to me probably soon.
I thought it was only my policy world that was full of acronyms. It's
Yeah.
all the names. I love that CHASM acronym. I think Ashley and I will just maybe sit down and pick your brain on the website to be able to, and community homeworks, like you said, is another great.
The one, Denise, the one other one is Michigan Saves. So Michigan Saves, I want to take 1 minute on Michigan Saves. They are a great organization. They're a nonprofit as well. Mary Templeton, she runs Michigan Safe. She just was in Crane's Business Daily and won an award on there for the recognition of how well Michigan Saves has grown and raised awareness in the state of Michigan. But you can think of Michigan Saves as our energy bank. So what they do is they offer loans that range from $1,000 to $100,000. You can finance, and their interest rates are very friendly. The interest rates range between 3.9% and 6.5%. Their mandate is to make sure that their interest rates remain below 7%. And they've lined up several credit unions that run statewide. Lake Michigan Credit Union participates in it. Dort, for Kalamazoo area, Dort Financial Credit Union participates in it. Genesis Credit Union participates in it. And True Community Credit Union participates, that services specifically our area, but you run it all through Michigan Saves, and it's a great program. You can finance solar panels for up to 25 years on that program. You could do furnaces, water heaters, insulation, air sealing. You could finance that up to 15 years within that program. And on Better World Builders, we're actually running a special for the month of March and April. If you work with us, we're offering a 0% financing rate for 12 months through the Michigan Saves program, and it just kind of making it a little bit more accessible. Since you guys are all part of this session, we're offering it to you as well. So, but it's a great way to leverage the fact that you can actually save money in your house, make it more energy efficient, make it healthier, and receive some rebates from the utility company and lower your energy bill. And you can finance it all so that, for the cost of a cup of coffee a day, you are living in a healthier, more comfortable house. And it's kind of can be done as easy as that, and so that's where that financing really just makes it accessible for just about anyone. Even landlords can participate in that Michigan Saves program. And this is one that I would love to get out more to our landlord community, because half of the houses in Kalamazoo are owned by somebody else. They're not owned by that person who's living there. And if you start to think about it, if that landlord, if that person who's renting that house pays an extra $50 a month, but they're living in a healthier, more energy efficient house, and they're paying 20% less on the energy bill, it works out for everybody's benefit along that line. So, I think that's also a piece that kind of, when we talk about sustainability planning, getting our landlords on board and maybe guilting them, pressuring them, letting them know that this is that students want this, their tenants want this, they want to live in a healthy, safe, comfortable house. They shouldn't be afraid to ask for that.
Right.
So yeah, that's that one.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions in the chat, and then I see Tom has his hand up. And so while you're talking about consumers, Rick, I'll ask your question for you from the chat. A lot of us here, right, we're focused on climate change. So many folks are aware of the states, some of the state laws and the original 1% cap that consumers' energy is now voluntarily on solar said will take up to 2%. And I think the question is, do you see any, do you have enough solar customers now that you're bumping up against those limits, or are people sort of out in the consumer world? Do they understand the cap situation and they may or may not be able to get some of those credits back when they sell back extra energy? Is that something that folks know about and that you encounter at all?
Their consumers has, when they first started their thing, they had some very good feedback loops where, when you got solar, you could sell it back to them for the same amount that you were buying it from them. That's changed, and now it's diminished quite a bit. So it doesn't have nearly the big impact that it did. So on that solar side, consumers is only allowing you to design systems so that they're like 80 to 90% coverage for your whole house. Okay. So sometimes if you get it, if you get the permit to design your solar system and get it set up, and then we come in afterward to make your house more energy efficient. Now you kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So I'm not quite sure if I'm answering the question on there, but Consumers Energy has their business model, and they are and they have their influence throughout the whole state. So we all pay for it. If you look on your Consumers Energy bill, there is one little line item that says energy efficiency optimization, and we all pay for it. So it's based on how much energy you use. So if the more energy you use, the more you're paying into their fund for energy efficiency. So if you could use less, then you get to pay less.
Yeah, good answer. We'll have to lobby the Michigan Public Service Commission, as many of us know about. I know we're way over time, but if folks are willing to hang out for just a little bit, Elaine is still on and wants to know if are there any good blown in insulation materials? You gave your sort of pitch. Yeah. Is there anything good out there in the blown in insulation materials world?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Okay.
So newly certified as we are. Yes, so there are a couple of different types of blown in insulation. Typically, it's going to be either a fiberglass or a cellulose insulation. And we always will use the cellulose for a couple of reasons. One, it's made from recycled material, which we love. It's recycled newspaper or other sorts of paper that have been thrown out. It's a better insulator than fiberglass, and it also is treated with boric acid, which means that it is rodent repellent, not because it kills them, but because it just irritates their skin, so they don't want to nest in it. Whereas fiberglass, they love making nests out of the stuff. And so the cool thing with cellulose is that we will most often use it in an attic to insulate that way, but we can also dense pack it inside of wall or sometimes ceiling cavities, which is our preferred way of insulating walls. If you blow it into a certain pressure, it won't settle over time, which is a problem with lots of kinds of wall insulation. So we'll dense pack that wall, seal it back up, and it not only is a great insulator, it's also a really good sound barrier. So if you're one of the folks who lives next to a highway or train tracks, we've had some really good success stories of their noise levels in their house being brought way down.
Yeah, you're making your parents way too proud right now. So see your mom's post in the chat.
That's great. Well, just one other, I want to build on what Isaac's saying, because the other question that comes up quite a bit is on foam insulation, spray foam insulation specifically. So if you are talking to spray foamers about doing any work on your house, spray foam can be a great product. It's best if it can be a lifetime product, meaning that, just like cellulose insulation, it's a lifetime thing. But there's different grades of spray foam out there. The ones that you should ask for are the ones that have it's called Green Guard, and something that has a low GWP formula. GWP stands for global warming potential. So these are two things that you should be asking if you are talking to any spray foamers. We have a special formulation that we use that qualifies under both of those, but and they cost just the raw material costs a little bit more, but really it's the whole labor and the equipment that really is the big cost. So we've just made a conscious choice to say, that's the only type of spray foam insulation that we'll use. The other part on that one, there is a difference between closed cell spray foam and open cell spray foam. So there's right applications for both. Usually by and large, closed cell is going to has the most versatility and doesn't absorb water, whereas open cell can absorb water. It's a lot less expensive. So there's points, there's give and take on some of those. So don't be afraid to ask questions on that. If you have any questions outside of here, feel free to email us or give us a call, and we'd be happy to go into more detail about either products that we use and why we use them.
Yeah.
Our goal at Better World Builders is really, we like the idea of sharing information so people can make good informed choices, and taking that time to share that information to make a good informed choice. I don't know, it seems to make all the difference in the world for most of our customers, because it's more than one thing, and you actually are there. You can have some unintended consequences if you are making decisions just based off of limited information.
Yeah, for sure. Tom, go ahead. Have your hand raised? Do you want to ask?
Yeah, my hand is raised. So I just want to do an endorsement for Better World Builders. I don't know whether you remember, Mark, you were here at People's Church about 3 years ago when we were kicking off our net zero program. And that presentation inspired a bunch of people in our church and gave us the support we needed to get moving on it. And I'd like to invite you to come over and see what we've done. We got people working at our building that didn't know that they were craftsmen, and we're getting it done. So I'd love to show you our progress and swap war stories with you.
Well, Tom, thanks. That sounds like a great idea. It seems like it could be a great field trip for maybe the whole Better World Builders crew to come on over.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
We'd love to see
do that.
those things. I was hoping, so I'll give my own personal endorsement here as well. I'm finally to step 6, and I got to say, my house is absolutely healthier and more livable. My utility bills dropped by at least a third after I did the work that I did on my house with Better World Builders. And so I just cannot say enough about how you walk through the process and do the trade-offs and the different types of solutions. And like you said, really just making sure the homeowner really understands what they're doing. And I have to say, it's a very complicated piece. I'm supposedly a pretty educated person, and I don't think that without the help of a company like Better World Builders, I would have never been able to fill out all the rebate forms and all the Michigan Save stuff, actually even myself, right? And so it's just such a credit to have companies like this in town that will sit down at any level of expertise and make that home happen. And so let's give Better World Builders another round of applause. Thank you so much for coming in and telling us about everything that you do. And I think everybody's gonna go home and go around, look at your basement, right? And make sure you're good. And I'm gonna stop the official recording.